Greetings nerdy list aficionados and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. And yes, we're in a different setting because it's quarantine times. Thanks for sticking with us. Today we're looking at superheroes who have some other abilities and skills. We're going to be looking at some heroes who are also doctors. So if you go down the field, they may be able to help you out in more ways than one. Or may have been. Some of them aren't doctors anymore. Or alive, but that's alright. Looking at you, Herald of Thunder, not a doctor anymore. I'm Sasha, and these are the top 10 superheroes who are doctors. Let's get started. At number 10, Soranik. Soranik is at first a very reluctant member of the Green Lantern Corps, and she is a recent addition to comic book history, relatively speaking. She debuted in Green Lantern Corps Recharge, which was released in 2005, and she is the daughter of Sinestro, the famed leader of the Fear Corps, the Sinestro Corps, the Yellow Corps. And she did not want to be a Lantern because she viewed that ring and that symbol as part of the oppression as wrought by her father. Because her father had very much used the ring's power for his own purposes and oppressed his people. Before the ring chose her, she was a neurosurgeon, with all of the skill set and knowledge that entails. At least for her own species. I'm not sure how well it would translate to other species, but there are some things that could still be useful. It really depends on how similar people are to Kurugarian physiology. Kurugarian. There we go. Pronouncing things. Soranik would eventually come to embrace her role as a Green Lantern, and she would realize that was her father who had been corrupt, not the ring itself. She would clash with him and his Fear Corps, but then he would also trick her into running it for a while to give it a good rep by pulling the whole "I'm dying," and then she would do it, and then he was like, haha, I'm not dying, psych. Soranik has used her surgical skills in the field, such as to patch up Hal Jordan, so it has definitely come in handy. Number 9, Thor, aka Donald Blake. When Thor first debuted in the 60s, he was also Donald Blake. This occurred after he was cast down to Earth. He was two people, well, kinda sorta. For a while he took over the body of a mortal named Donald Blake, but that was confusing and scary, so then he just was Donald Blake when he wasn't Thor. As Donald Blake, he would have medical skills, and he would spend his time practicing medicine with Nurse Jane Foster. This was before she was insultingly upgraded to scientist and then doctor. One was in the MCU, one was in comics. It's just the idea that a nurse needs to be upgraded. Like, nurses do a lot. Respect your nurses. Nurses rule. Donald Blake was a 60s doctor, which means what was his specialty? It was whatever it needed to be. Don't think about it. He's a doctor. Number 8, Anthony DRUID. Hello, Dr. DRUID. Once a villain and then a member of the Avengers, who was mind controlled and kicked off and then had to fight to rejoin. He first debuted in Amazing Adventures #1 in 1961, and he's a bit of a different type of a doctor. He is a psychiatrist, and it's a skill that he rarely utilizes. Instead, he decided to dive into the softer realms like the occult and telepathy. Dr. DRUID has some minor occult abilities that he spent a lot of time cultivating. He's had to overcome a lot since being on the Avengers. As mentioned, he was possessed, and they don't take kindly to that except when they do. It really depends how much they like you. So Dr. DRUID actually uses his occult skills, not his psychiatry skills. He just, I guess, keeps that diploma somewhere in a drawer. Has that worked out for him? You decide. I'd say middling, kinda, sorta. Number 7, Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific first debuted in Spectre Volume 3, number 54, back in 1997. He is Michael Holt, and he is a genius. His natural aptitudes served him in great stead. By the time he was a superhero, he would already have 14 PhDs, and he would be a self-made millionaire. He had a cyber firm called Cyberware. Don't judge him, it was the 90s, and there's nothing wrong with your firm saying exactly what it does. PlayStation. He would become a hero after the death of his wife and unborn child. He blames himself for this because he made his wife late to where she was going, which happens to be church, because he was spending his time debating with her about why it was dumb for her to go. What a wonderful husband. Actually, these themes are well handled, and they come up again and again. It's something that he works through. Contemplating suicide, he would be approached by the Spectre. At the time, the Spectre was Terry Sloan, who would tell him his life story, and at that point, he would be inspired to, you know what, there's still work to be done, and become Mr. Terrific. He would join the JSA and become their chairman. Not enough people know about Mr. Terrific. He's pretty cool. Number 6, CECILIA Reyes. She debuted the same year. We have her in X-Men 65 in 1997. Cecilia decided that she was going to be a doctor at an early age. This was after seeing her father gunned down in front of her. She would actually be forced to join the X-Men. She didn't really want to. She wanted to live a normal life and help people with her medical skills. But she would join after encountering a period of racism. And she would prove to be a huge asset to the team. And they would be able to use her medical skills in the field, and they did, several times. And plus, when you combined it with some of the other mutant abilities, you could get interesting things like storm boiling water with electricity. No matter how much time went on, however, Reyes still felt more comfortable when she was just being a doctor and not fighting supervillains. It's just where she'd rather be. Respect. The superhero life is not for everybody. Number 5, Dr. Manhattan. Now, Dr. Manhattan, John Osterman, is not a medical doctor. Instead, he is a nuclear physicist. This is a career path he is placed upon by his father after his father, who was a watchmaker, decided that their business was obsolete. This was after the dropping of the atomic bomb. He decided his son needed to do something a bit more relevant. Of course, this life choice would lead him directly on the path to becoming Dr. Manhattan, who is the Watchmen universe's only superpowered being. This would occur after he was trapped in a disintegration chamber, and his whole body would be unconstituted, and he would actually have to rebuild himself, reconstitute his entire self from the molecules up. His physics degree would not matter when essentially he had become a god. And he would ultimately leave to play with creation and start up his own universe, which would later be retconned to be the New 52 universe. Thoughts and feelings vary. Number 4, Dr. Samson. Doc Samson first debuted in Incredible Hulk Volume 2, number 141 in 1971. His father was a psychiatrist and a sleazy one who didn't believe in ethics, so he was seducing all the female patients. At first, Samson decided that he didn't want to be a psychiatrist like his father, but then he was one anyway, for reasons. And because of this, he would actually find himself treating Bruce Banner, the Hulk. And he would prove to have some of the same ethics as his father. Not that he seduced Bruce Banner. That would have also been a story I would have read though. What this means is that when some of the gamma radiation was being siphoned off of Bruce so that he would no longer need to transform into the Hulk, well, Samson stole some of it and transferred it onto himself. He would expose himself and then he would gain some powers. He would become strong, his hair would turn green, but also he was stronger if it was longer because Samson and biblical allegory. He would still remain a psychiatrist and he would still try to help the Hulk, and over time his roster of people that he worked with would expand, including the She-Hulk. Get like a superhero community client base. Number 3, Reed Richards. Okay, so Reed Richards is not a medical doctor, but again, he possesses multiple degrees and doctorates from various schools. The most notable apparently are Columbia and Harvard, which, given the fact that he is a genius within the Marvel realm, sometimes described as their smartest man, much to Doom's annoyance, should not be any surprise. Reed is behind some of the most devastating inventions in the Marvel universe, and also just holds on to some of the scientific oddities. Honestly, at this point, he doesn't even really need to present his credentials. You can just see them. They're everywhere and all the things he has. Reed and the Fantastic Four have often just kind of done what they think is best without consulting people, like holding on to the ultimate nullifier or having the portal to the negative zone inside their house. Number 2, Dr. Midnite. There have been several Dr. Midnites, and actually a couple of them have been doctors. And we're going to be talking about the first one, Charles McNider. He first debuted in All-American Comics number 25 back in 1941. He was a surgeon who got tasked with removing a bullet from a mafia witness. This witness was of course going to testify against the mob. However, this all went wrong when a grenade was thrown into the room by said mafia and it went off and blinded Charles. He thought his career was over. However, he discovered that he could actually still see, but everything had to be pitch black. So he would start a career as a crime fighter with special glasses that blocked everything out, and he would still use his surgical skills because he could still see. And finally, in at number 1, we have Doctor Strange. I'm sure most of you knew this was coming. Doctor Strange is very well known for being the Sorcerer Supreme, but also for having been a surgeon. It is part of his origin and backstory. Most people know, especially thanks to the MCU, which definitely expanded the range of reach this character had, that he was once an arrogant surgeon who would pick and choose who could live or die because he was just so in demand. Then he has an accident that crushes and destroys his hands, and he has to reevaluate his life, by which I mean he goes on a crazy quest to try and get his hands back and ends up learning magic and becoming a sorcerer, but that still doesn't get him his hands back. They still weren't what they had been. Well, that is until 2020. When they decided, conflict, what's that? Let's give him his hands back, and he became the Surgeon Supreme. So he was Sorcerer Supreme and a surgeon, and the conflict became, but how does he do it all? He's just so talented. We'll see how long that lasts, especially now at the time of this recording that we have a pencils down order. So those were 10 superheroes who are doctors. If I left off any of your faves, of course, please let me know down below. And thanks so much for watching Top 10 Nerd and sticking with us during this trying and confusing time. As always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so that you never miss a vid here on Top 10 Nerd. Bye-bye. Greetings, nerdy list aficionados, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. As you can see, we're in a different setting, quarantine times. That was my cat. That's what it means to be filming at home. Oh my gosh. No. Don't make me kick you out. Oh. You gonna be good? You're not gonna be good. Want people to see you? Want the people to see you? I want the people to see you.